Ellis County Commissioners will now come to order. Donna, if you want to call the roll.
Commissioner Dean Hazelhorse.
Present.
Commission Chair Butch Schleier.
Present.
Commission Dustin Romp.
Present.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. The item on the agenda tonight is a discussion regarding the exemption of the governor's statewide mask mandate. Jason, can we hear from you?
Jason Kennedy, Public Health Officer for the Ellis County Health Department. As you guys are aware, Governor's executive order goes into effect tomorrow if no action is taken by your board. As you can see from really across the state, and even with, I'm sure, the emails and with the general feelings of the public, this is an extremely divisive situation. The public is truly split 50-50 on the necessity or the desire as a universal mandate for face mask usage in public. I honestly had a fairly decent speech that I was writing for tonight, and I realized that, I'm not sure there are right answers here. I'm not sure there's anything that is a perfect yes, no. We have to view this as a health aspect, a health agenda for the population, and we have to view this, and we have to view health from many different aspects. Health is not just physical health. It's mental health, social health, financial health. All those well-beings have to go together to make the person physically well. As you guys look at that and you look at this agenda tonight, there's a lot of things that we need to weigh or look at. There is no doubt that face masks work in certain situations and in certain places and times. Face masks work inside a home where you have close or high population density. They work in areas of high viral load. That data is there. That data is supported. What we don't know is in the U.S., as far as a mitigation measure in a low population density with low spread or low to actually extremely low community spread, but low numbers of COVID, what the impact of face masks will be. I don't know that. We don't know that. The data is not there. So as you guys look at this tonight, I think no matter what comes of this, I think we should encourage, I think we should support, and I think we should allow businesses and individuals, no matter what the decision, to make a choice to protect themselves, the patrons of their business, and those around them. I think that encouragement and support and saying it's okay to make your decision to wear the mask is absolutely should be universal across the board. As we look at mandates, if we look specifically at our pandemic plan, so I've said from the start that we'll follow our pandemic plan. At this point, with what we see in the numbers, we have 8 active cases, we have 0 hospitalizations, and thankfully we have 0 deaths to this point. Our hospital capacity is sufficient to handle anything that we have at this point. We also see a reduction or a continued decrease in our testing as a percentage of number of tests cast, or our positives as a percentage of tests cast. We're sitting at about 1%. So what that means is the number of positives found is about 1% of the total tests that are taken. Statewide, the average is about 8%, and states to state, where we get concerned as a state is when we see a 10% rate of positive, basically. So Ellis County, thankfully, is far below that, which means we don't have a large amount of community spread. Whether face masks would whether face masks would decrease that further, I don't know. But I think it's a decision that you guys have to make, or a decision that we have to make as a group, to say this is what we feel is in the best interest of the public and the people that we serve. I don't get to be a political party. I don't get to choose. I have to serve everybody. I serve every citizen the same. I don't care what their party affiliation is. We have to listen to that voice, which is why I think we at a minimum, recommend or encourage, support the use of face masks anytime that social distancing can't be maintained. Anytime a business owner wants to recommend it for themselves, for their patrons, I think those are all basic measures that we should take. The decision of whether to mandate it for Ellis County or not is something that you guys have to make based on the people that you've heard from. You guys have any further questions for me?
Just one comment, Jason. You said this was a 50-50 issue. The responses I got, it's more like a 15 to 85 issue. But overwhelmingly, people do not support this mandate.
It's, from the emails that I got, which I did not get, I didn't get as many as what I expected, but most of the ones I got said they did send them to you. Most of what I saw was was really people just are divided. I mean, it is a divisive issue, and so that's why we have this issue before us. And you know, like I said, this would not be included in my pandemic plan or our pandemic plan. This measure at this time in our community would not have been taken if we followed our pandemic plan.
Very good.
Jason, what's the purpose of any of these mandates? I mean, we don't have a cure for this disease, so wouldn't it be that we see some underarching data or something that alarms us that would make us want to add any kind of mandate to the populace?
So you're asking for us specifically in Ellis County or as far as a statewide?
Yeah, I mean, maybe speak to the idea of why the governor, when she did, decided this was a good time to put a mandate out for masks. Was there any data that supported that, or is this just something that came along the pipeline?
Sure. I honestly don't. I can't answer for what the governor's office. They would be working in concert with KDHE or something like that. So from reading through her executive order, it looks like they had cited, you know, basically an increase in cases as far as, and there is some cited data from countries that have generally more communistic countries like that have taken fairly draconian reactions and have seen some community mitigation measures. But I don't know specifically what data they were using. For us in our county, in our community, what we would use is the three metrics. So we would use cases as a percent of positives, or positives as a percent of tests. Then we would are hospitalizations and how that balances with hospital capacity. And then we would use deaths. And deaths as an individual data point are a little less important than trend of death. And that just shows that the virility of the virus is increasing and that it has mutated to a more aggressive form. So those would be the three metrics that we would use to enact the different levels that are included in our pandemic plan.
Okay. You know, that's my problem with the mandate, I would say, from the beginning, is if I saw data that would warrant any such thing, then I would probably be more willing to consider it. From the very beginning, we were told we're shutting down the economy so that we can stop hospitalizations. We have zero. So the idea that we add any kind of mandate at this point just seems like it's overarching. The biggest fear I have, guys, is that we lose the trust of the public by putting in mandates that don't have meaning and aren't there for real safety. So just as Jason said, I would encourage anybody that wants to wear a mask, that might be at risk, that may be around other people and not be able to social distance for a period of time, feel free. We'd actually probably encourage it if you would like to. But as far as mandating, I have no intention of mandating people to do anything in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Dean, do you have any questions?
I'm just going to echo Dustin's comments. I talked to a lot of people for and against, as I'm sure both of you did, and thank you everybody for calling me that did. Had some great conversations, people I've never met in Ellis County in all my life living here, so had a lot of good conversations with a lot of people, and I just told one right before I walked in here, I said, you know, if you feel threatened at all when you're out in public or at a gathering, you know, please do wear a mask. You know, I said, I encourage you to do that. This young lady was 84 years old, and she said, you know, I just worry about other people. And I said, well, if you feel threatened, you know, please do. I said, we're not going to discourage it at all. But I said, I talked to a lot of people, and I know Dustin, talked to a doctor here in town, just the same one that called me, and she definitely, you know, gave me the whole right act about this whole thing and how it actually works and the different with that. And so, no, it was met a lot of good people. Appreciate all the people that did call me. It was a lot of good feedback from the community that you could tell people were very interested in the issue. So that was good to hear from a lot of people in the county.
Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak on the issue? Yes, please come on up and state your name.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Duffy. You can probably tell by my mask where I stand on this issue. And I guess I would just say that my concern with the last two speakers is that they're saying, if you're concerned, if you feel that you're at risk, and I'm over 60, so I feel that and I'm also a cancer survivor, so I feel that I'm a bit at risk. And to say, if you're at risk, then wear a mask, this mask does not protect me very much. It's when the other person wears the mask. And I don't think that that's new information that I'm bringing to you today, but you're acting as though that's new information. It's not wear a mask if you're concerned. It's expect other people to wear a mask. My sister lives in Colorado. She says you don't go in any grocery store, you don't go in any restaurant, where she lives in Fort Collins, that people aren't wearing masks. She says she feels very safe. I don't feel safe shopping in Hayes, so I pretty much don't. And I would also say, to your comment that, I don't support mandating anything in the United States. Well, we mandate speed limits so that we can protect one another. And I see this as a comparable issue. And I just would expect my county commissioners to do what's best for the health of this county during a pandemic. Are we going to wait? I mean, what I'm hearing is, well, let's wait until we have a lot of deaths and we have a lot of numbers, and then we'll take action. That does not seem smart to me. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to make a comment? Okay.
I'd say I'd probably like to answer to that. I would say, since I was directly talked to, the idea of a mandate for this thing is a mandate of health. And, from my perspective, there's always a give and take with anything. We can stop death, but we can also cause death by shutting things down, by forcing things on people, by fear, by mental health, all the things Jason talked about. So, the idea of a mandate of masks, I expect anybody who is at risk to do whatever they can do to protect themselves. In fact, we take much greater measures on nursing homes than we do anywhere else in Ellis County, because we know that they're at high risk, because they live in close quarters with other people. I feel for your situation. I hope that you can maintain social distancing. I hope you never get a virus, especially this virus. I've had 2 relatives that have had the virus already, and luckily had no problems with it. So, but we also have to build some sort of herd immunity. At some point, people will get the virus. Jason has said it from the very beginning. We're not going to stop it. We just have to monitor it and have a plan for it when it happens. And luckily, in Ellis County, we've been very lucky. We're naturally socially distanced because we don't live on top of each other like New York City. So we've been relatively safe. So I hope that you feel in Ellis County you're a lot safer than you would be if you had to live in an apartment building in Kansas City. Because that is much greater risk, and from the presentation that Jason gave this morning, luckily they don't see very much risk at all from intermittent contact. It's long-term contact over long periods of time. It's viral load over those times. So while I understand the fear, I think the fear is real. I just don't see where this came from the governor. I would have to see data, because last thing I want to do is lose the trust of the public to just make up mandates or have mandates for whatever reason it may be, political or not. I really struggled with when this came out, why it came out, and why it took 3 days to decide it was a good idea. So that's my feeling on it, but I imagine it's up to you guys if it's not just me. So,
Well, I think one thing that was impressed upon me, and I got a whole bunch of emails and quite a few phone calls. The issue is if a mask is effective or not wasn't ever discussed. People don't really care if it's effective or not. They don't want to be told they have to wear it. That sense of independence in this part of the country, people just thrive on. They absolutely thrive on it. They don't want to be dictated to and mandated to, and especially by some bureaucrat in a far and distant land. They just despise that. And I happen to be one of those kind of people too. Someone wants to tell me to do something, I'll do the opposite, just to spite them. It's easy for me to do that. And I reflected a whole bunch on this, a whole bunch. Because for the past 30 days, as I watch TV, I see people running around with signs and yelling. Then they're looting stores, then they're burning buildings. Then they're shooting people. Then they're occupying spaces in cities. And I think, gosh, it's so nice to live in this part of the country where we still respect persons, family, God, our flag. And then the governor turns around and says, but now you're going to wear a mask. And that just completely turned me off. And I usually don't try to get very political as I sit in here, but I was really thinking, if that governor's election would have turned out a little bit different and we had a Governor Kobach, we wouldn't be having this discussion because he cares about the Constitution and the freedoms it affords people. And with that being said, I just cannot tell all of these independent-minded people out here that we're going to force them to wear a mask. I just can't do that. It's not going to happen. If people want to, they are more than welcome to. If store owners want people to wear a mask in their stores, they're more than welcome to post that and have people do that. But I don't think it is up to this Board of Commissioners to force people into that issue. In addition to that, it's not easily enforceable from a law enforcement perspective.
That's my other problem with this, Commissioner Slyer. You just brought it up, is in the enforcement point of it. It's why I don't like the mandate. It's also why I feel like the mandate is an attack on small businesses. They are being put at risk in civil court because of mandates like this, and I feel it's our duty to protect them. Last thing we need for our small businesses is the idea of somebody coming in, contact tracing back to their business, and then the person suing them because they didn't enforce a mandated mask requirement from the governor. Besides the fact that we just don't have hospitalizations, which is the whole reason why we started any kind of mandating, was to protect the healthcare system. I want people to protect themselves. I want people to protect other people, but I will not mandate them to do it. I think they should do it on their own accord because we're good citizens around each other and take care of each other, and people that are at risk should be safe.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Hazelhorst, any comments?
I think you guys said it all.
Okay.
I don't think you need to hear from me and repeat the same thing. There was, and I think same guy probably called you, guy that had the asthma. Do you guys remember? Did he call you?
Yeah.
Okay. He said he had to wear a mask a couple times and have it just.
Oh, yeah.
He said he couldn't breathe. He said he had to go to the hospital for something. I don't know, for some procedure. And he said, me wearing a mask doesn't work. And he said, I'm a firm believer in being safe and social distance, but he said, I can't wear a mask. So I thought that was a little bit interesting, but anyway, no, I have nothing else.
And
Butch.
fellow commissioners, I believe when our governor signed that mandate, she said this was to prevent another shutdown. If our governor orders another shutdown, I hope we can all convene and we can try to go around that one too.
Okay.
That would be my hope. Of course, it's going to depend on circumstances, as they would be in Ellis County at that point in time. But as long as we have the authority to consider an exemption, we should exercise that authority.
I also appreciate our legislature's work during this process to give us this opportunity, because one size fits all when you look at the stark difference in parts of the state of Kansas, from Wyandotte County to Wallace County. The idea that we are running and governing the exact same way in two places that are starkly different from each other is asinine to me. So with that, I can make a motion.
Okay, make a motion.
I move to approve resolution number R 2020-8 and to have the Board of Commissioners sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have none, Butch.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. That concludes the Board of Commissioners meeting.
Thank you, Butch. Dustin?
Still in the field?
Oh, yeah.